Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host Ian.
And I'm Terry Herc.
And Alan Tucker.
All right.
This podcast was created to provide you, our heroes, with new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure.
Our show may not be suitable for young children, but neither is our D&D games.
Moving on to the meat and potatoes of our podcast, the main topic, the artifacts of the guild. So first of all, I want to thank you guys so much again for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. I know you guys are super busy, so it must have been a pain to carve out time to sit and talk to some random people on the internet.
Not random. I listened to your
random.
Yeah, and you've got a fantastic show. I've listened to it on my Podcrunch app a few times, so
Nice.
it's
Oh,
great
thank
to
you.
be part of it.
Well, thank you very much. So we're going to be covering artifacts of the guild now. I personally love this thing. It has so much content. If I'm not mistaken, it has at least 10 amazing artifacts, 30 different legendary items, more than 50 very rare items, and more than 70 rare items, and almost 100 more on top of that. That is such a massive collection of amazing content.
It's a few.
And I can only imagine the amount of work that went into it. But before we talk a little bit about that, I'd like each of you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, starting with you, Alan?
Yeah, sure. I live in Montana, and I guess I think I'm what the kids call an OG. I've been playing D&D since the early 1980s, but life got in the way at some point after college and such, and I took a break and skipped both third and fourth editions before coming back to the hobby a couple of years ago. Then it wasn't too long after that I found the guild and published a few adventures late in 2017 and been kind of doing that ever since. Biggest thing I've done solo, at least, is a book of short encounters based on street urchins called Hey Mister, Can You Help Me?
Nice.
And that one's actually crawling towards platinum at this point. It's
Wow.
almost there, so it's been a lot of fun. Really glad to have gotten back into it, and it's been a joy.
Yeah, and as a guy that spends a lot of time on Dmsguild, I see your name very often. So
No,
yeah,
thank you.
I feel like you must have your hand in a lot of different projects. So, Terry, what about you?
So I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I've been playing D&D since third edition, so not as long, but I've been DMing since 2010. And in around 2017, mid 2017, I started publishing on the DMs Guild. I read a really good article by Alpha Stream called "What an Adventure is Worth," and it really made me think about how I could, stretch my creative energies and start writing stuff. So I've been publishing some magic items, adventures, some monsters. And recently, actually, I ran a Kickstarter for an OGL product, which did quite well. We're in the kind of the fulfillment phase right now.
Nice.
Professor Humbert Drumsley, the 5-year adventure codex, so it's some short adventures. And last year, I had a chance to join on this project and do some work for Artifacts of the Guild.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to pick up both your guys' products. I know that Edward Tate in our patron chat just says he just added this as a source to finalize Funeral of the World, one of his projects. So awesome. Thank you, Tate. So I'm really excited to have you guys on here. You guys obviously have a lot of experience in the role play role play industry, so to speak, especially across Dmsguild and your would you say OG your experience in the D&D world. So that means you must have some amazing experiences in that amount of time. Not that you're old or anything like that, but you know what I mean.
It's okay. I am old. I'll own that.
So, Terry, can you tell us what your most memorable D&D moment is?
So it wasn't an actual game. It was, I got invited to a Christmas party, and it was with my old DMing group. I was the DM for their campaign, and some kind of mutual friends had showed up, and they were telling the story of the campaign that I had run. And there were so many things that I had forgotten, but had totally stuck with that group of players. And they were just reliving every session and every crazy NPC. And it was just so rewarding for me to think that I had made this lasting memory for my friends. And the best part was that the mutual friends started playing D&D shortly thereafter. So it was this really great kind of community moment for me. It was very cool.
Very awesome. What about you, Alan?
That's a really tough question. There's been so many character exploits, triumphs, and failures, and but most of all, I really just remember sharing the sheer joy of playing with friends and laughing until we cried so many times late into the night. It's an amazing game, and I'm so glad I decided to dive back into it and start playing again a couple years ago. It's something I didn't realize how much I had missed until I got back into it.
Absolutely.
And for our next question, is there any point that either one of you felt like you failed as either a player or a DM, and what did you learn from it? Terry, do you want to start us off on that one?
Yeah, do I only have to pick one, or?
Absolutely not.
Yep.
I mean, there's been quite a few good ones, but I think every DM has tried the battle of impossible odds, where the characters are destined to lose the fight. And I would say early when I was DMing, I tried to pull this one off unsuccessfully. Yeah, I think the group was really unsatisfied with the session. And when I look back at it now, I think it was because I took away their ability to be free agents and kind of make choices by predetermining what was going to happen for them. I think now my sessions are a little more open, so I've learned from it, but it still stings every once in a while when I think about it late at night.
I don't know though, because I can see how I can see both sides of this one, just because I could see not some players don't realize that not every situation is winnable because of overwhelming odds.
I do that a lot.
So,
I have no problem putting my players in a situation they can't win, but I always give them multiple ways to get out.
Right, and some people forget that retreat is an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that early in my kind of DMing life, I didn't have those tools like the two of
Right.
you.
Sure.
And I wasn't able to give the players the options.
Oh, well,
Got it.
I learned that from not giving them options. So, like, oh yeah, you charged in, you're dead. Sorry. Let's all roll up new characters, start over. Who wants to DM? Oh, nobody. Oh, damn. All right, Alan.
Probably early on having to fudge die rolls behind the screen because I had grossly miscalculated the balance of an encounter, and not wanting to kill the party because of my bad design and mismanagement of what was going on. The players never knew that I had to that I did that, but I felt terrible having to cheat the game in order to fix my mistake. And it's it's something, unfortunately, sometimes it's just unavoidable. But
Absolutely.
I do my best now to just operate without a screen entirely and just let everything ride so everybody knows things are above board.
All right, guys, I roll in the public, so if that orc crits you 3 times, you're shit out of luck. I ain't saving you.
That's right.
I definitely get that. I can't speak for Ian, but I know that I have overtuned many different encounters, unfortunately, in my experience in trying to make it challenging, because sometimes I felt like I built an adventure that was based around the correct CR, and then they just mow through it. So then I try to compensate for that, and I way overcompensate, and one person falls in one shot, and I'm like, damn it. So I definitely understand the trials and tribulations there. So,
or times where you think you make it extremely challenging encounter, and then matchmaking becomes a factor.
yeah. So I set up all these amazing encounters, and this fucker walks in with a goddamn clipboard. Building inspection or whatever. What was it? Some bullshit like that.
Surprise inspection.
Surprise inspection. Stupid ogres. I won't use ogres no more. You guys only get intelligent monsters from now on. Um, anyways, so thank you guys so much for sharing your personal story and your wisdom with us. But now we really want to get to why we're here. Can you tell us a little bit about what Artifacts of the Guild is in a little more detail than what I have, and really how it came to be?
Yeah, sure. So it started in February of 2018. So this was really after the success of Monsters at the Guild, which I see on your table right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Emmett Bine decided that he wanted to do the same sort of community thing, but with magical items. So he made a group on Facebook and he promoted it on the Dmsguild Creator Circle, which is a group that we're both part of. And he started really getting some input from the community on people that had existing items or wanted to make new items. And pretty soon it grew to this massive 260 collection.
Wow.
Decent size.
Yeah. So how many? Do you know the exact number of people that were involved in this project?
Well, it finished up with 58 final contributors. We had a number of people that made submissions that, unfortunately, just due to the size, we weren't able to include every possible submission.
And they
But
were
I think,
probably junk. Some of them were probably junk, right?
well, we had a lot of very strong submissions, that's for sure.
That's awesome.
So we wanted to make sure that the best ones were part of the finished product. And I'd say, there's probably about 90 people that were really, really involved and had submitted items.
All right.
Very cool. I'm glad there's a lid on that because I just knocked it over.
You will be a dead man.
Yeah, your brand new laptop.
Yeah. But generally speaking, though, can you walk us through the process of the development itself as time went along?
So it started with an open submission for creators. So Emmett had created essentially a shared Google Drive where there was a template. So he asked that everyone would put their items in using the template and make subfolders, add any art that they might have. And then we had kind of like a tracking sheet on Google Sheets where we would keep the item, the rarity, anywhere that had been included before, like an adventure or something like that. And then Emmett created, he wanted to have a good variety of rarities. So we didn't want to have tons of legendary items and no common items. And
Right.
the idea
Yeah.
was that we wanted the book to be relevant for everyone, whether you had a tier 1 campaign or an epic 20th level campaign. We wanted to have something in the book that would be great for your group.
That's fantastic. I have to ask. You mentioned adding art submissions that they already had. Um, did you guys have to? Did you do a lot of scouring for like stock art for stuff that happened to match some of the items, or did they already all have items, or did you have to commission new art for those?
Oh, Alan, I see you smiling there. Let's
Let's see. Yes, all of the above.
don't be modest though. You did a ton of work with the art. Like it was truly incredible what you accomplished.
Well, we did have, there was quite a few of the submissions, especially some of the stuff that Michael Watt had put in. He had, and I'm not sure if he had, it was from an adventure, I think, or several adventures maybe, that he had these items from, but he had some really incredible art commissioned already. And so those items came with some amazing art. And then other people also had art. Some of it was, stock art that's available on either on the guild or drive through or other things like that. And then a lot of the submissions had nothing, just because people didn't have the resources to to put that out there or get that developed for themselves. But so yeah, I spent in putting the book together. Once it was all rounded up, I spent a lot of time scouring different sites for things and kind of creating kit bashing stuff from one piece of art or another or that type of thing, and just basically creating individual pieces based on the descriptions that the contributors had offered for what they thought the thing should look like. So
Mm-hmm.
So, after any submissions, how did you? How do I want to word that?
Carefully.
Damn it, dude. You guys talked about having all the submissions that you guys had to cut. Unfortunately, how did you really determine what was gonna make it and what didn't during this development process?
Honestly, there was a lot of tough decisions. So we tried to look at what people would use in a game because there were some items that were maybe interesting to have in a campaign, but they wouldn't get a lot of player use. So I'll call them like DM items or one-time use items. The other thing too is there were some similarities between some of the items, and there were just some writers that had maybe a clearer vision of what they wanted to do with the item, and or they had more lore around it to give some more flavor. That was, I would say, one of the criteria that I used.
So was this like a community discussion, or was this like the decision of Terry?
No, no, it wasn't. It wasn't my call. So we had. I mean, Emmett was leading the team for the vast majority of the project, and he had assembled some editors. So Alan and myself, and we also had TK Johnson and Justin Johnston.
Okay.
And we had a kind of a group discussion where we assessed items on how we felt they would fit, and we had some back and forth to make sure that we had a good blend.
Oh, fantastic. That actually is a good segue into the crew that you guys worked with. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of those people and what kind of jobs and tasks needed to be I can never say this, compartmentalized? I think I said that right.
Well, definitely Emmett as project lead was really important because he set out like a very clear vision of what he wanted to do at the start of the project. So that was good, keeping everyone organized and pointed in the right direction. And then the editors, including ourselves that I mentioned, were so pivotal because we had to make sure that there was like a consistent voice between all of the items. Some might have more of a humorous tone, but wanted to make sure that they sounded like they were from the Dungeon Master's Guide. That was really important.
Hmm.
That
And
I can
then, I
see.
mean, all the work, Alan, that you did with the layout and everything like that was just incredible. It turned out so beautifully.
Well, I had a good foundation on that because that was one thing Emmett started. He had a lot of that kind of laid out initially, at least the bones of it. And so yeah, he did a terrific job in making it look pretty as well.
Mm.
Very cool. So when you say layout, are you guys using like InDesign or GM Binder or Word or some other? Because I know there's a lot of different tools people use when they're doing their layout for their projects on Dmsguild. What is the tool that you guys use to develop this?
Yeah, it was all InDesign,
Hmm.
Photoshop, and Illustrator. Pretty much is what I use all the time, and that's I've done graphic design and things like that for many years, and so that's kind of what I'm used to at this point. So.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I see that you mentioned that Terry kind of had to fill Emmett's shoes. Can you talk a little bit on that, or is that an off limits topic?
Oh,
No,
not at all. Yeah, go ahead,
yeah.
Terry.
Well, Emmett got, I would call it the dream job. So he
Yeah.
now works for Cubicle 7 in Ireland, where he lives. They had moved from London to Ireland, I guess, due to Brexit or whatever. So he's done a ton of work on the Age of Sigmar RPG, and it just, pulled him away from this project. So he looked for some others that could help out. And I would say I stepped in as sort of a coordinator role, and then Alan really took the lead on doing the layout and a lot of the minute editing to get it ready for press. So
That's awesome. I love hearing the journey that you guys go through to make these projects come to life, and it's just fantastic. Um, Ian, do you have any questions for him?
Oh, we have a list. Mm.
I was trying to feed that in more naturally, but thanks for that. Damn it.
I was being sarcastic, but
I know. Uh,
between the two of you, what would you say your favorite part of creating artifacts was, is?
yeah, is probably the right word. It's
Yep.
still kind of under active development for the print.
Right.
Do you want to go first, Alan?
Sure. Yeah. The really for me, it was just looking at the just the tremendous creativity that the guild has to offer. there was such a wide variety of items and ideas and styles and everything else that we got in there. I think the final number, it was well over 300 that we had to be looking at initially, and frankly, there were some really interesting items that we didn't put in, just because we just didn't have room and/or time anymore. Kind of needed to get things moving and get it out the door. But it's a tremendous community. It really is very supportive of each other, and everybody's um, happy when other people do well. That's the best thing, really.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if I could echo that community comment, that was really the main reason that I wanted to make sure that this project came to life, was because we have such a great community. I wanted to make sure that everyone could see that big collaborations are possible. They are a ton of work, but they can be done, and they can be done well. And I think this is a good showing on that front there.
Absolutely. I remember my shock and awe when the Monsters of the Guild came out, and now this one, just the same. The quality of work that you guys have put in is just, I almost want to say absurd, because in my opinion, I've been playing I've been playing D&D a long time, and I think that the content and development you guys have into this rivals even some of the content I've seen come out of Wizards. So that is kudos to you guys
Thank
for the
you.
amount of work and effort. It shows in the quality of the content. So um,
I really
kudos.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Wizards, if you're listening, I will take that check direct deposit now. Thank you for that bribe. Oh, I don't think we're supposed to talk about bribes.
Hmm.
Um, Justin, edit that. No, I'm just kidding.
Incentive.
Incentive. Yes, I like that better. Anyways, I kid. I kid. So with a project this large in um of this scale and magnitude and quality, what kind of challenges did you guys run into during its development?
For me in the editing process, it was definitely getting that consistent voice. Everyone has, their own group, their own flavor that they're used to playing in. So trying to make that come to life in the items was tough at times, because I didn't want to take away someone's creative voice by editing their words down. Like, I wanted to keep the spirit of what they intended together. So sometimes we had to work really closely with the creator to make sure that, is this how you wanted the item to be, and make sure that we were true to their vision as well. That was a big challenge for sure.
I can understand that because I remember for one of our fellow collaborators, I think it was John Genstone, where he
Mm-hmm.
was like homebrewing some extra items, and there were a few times where like, so does it work this way, this way, this way, or this way? He's like, I didn't think of half of those things.
Yeah. And
um,
even now, I'd say along those lines, that's part of what we're seeing, because we've gotten a lot of great feedback on some of the items, and there are some that could be a little clearer. And that's part of what we're going through right now. We're doing a little bit of editing to make sure it's ready for print.
Sure.
very cool. Alan, do you have any comments on that?
Kind of just what I mentioned before. I mean, there was so many submissions, and we went through when we were doing the editing process. We kind of Emmett kind of put all the items into pairs of editors to start with, and so two people looked at every single item that went through, and we kind of had a rating system, and then once we had each rated all of our groups of items, then we went back and forth and talked about what we thought about this thing or that thing in particular, the aspects of each item. And it was a long, daunting process, but well worth it by the time we got done. So
Very cool. So we can't skip out on this and finish up with this without first talking about some of the items. You guys have looked through every single one of these. I'd love to tell you that I've read the whole book, but I've only made it through like 80 of those damn things because there's so much. So I would love to ask you guys, what is your favorite items from this supplement from Artifacts of the Guild?
I mean, the one that I like the most is from Oliver Clegg. It's Raskin's splenectomy knife, and it's literally two sentences, but it made me laugh so hard the first time I read it that I immediately sent a message. It was so funny. It's the sort of thing that would fit in my game where it's just a little bit kooky, and it just is different. You don't see that kind of humor in the DMG, and having a little bit of that in this book, I think, was going to be really important. So that was my top one for sure.
Got it.
It sounds awesome. What about you, Alan?
Well, I kind of tend toward the oddball stuff as well, just because it's different, I guess. But Jeff Stevens had one actually called the Hello World Shield, which is a cursed shield that the first time you attack that day, something, it casts fairy fire centered on you around everything. So most likely it's gonna hit you, and it's gonna hit your party as well as the bad guy that you're fighting, that type of thing. And it's that sort of thing is super entertaining, at least for the DM. So
There's one that really jumped out at me that you kind of posted here. Can you tell me about the Divine Shard, Terry?
Yeah, so this is essentially a piece of a god after it's been killed, and it kind of falls down to the plane. And when someone picks it up, they can essentially begin to ascend to godhood, which that one really struck a chord with me because I had run a campaign long, long ago that had some of those kind of elements in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really just like the idea of a character transforming if you've got the right group, like make sure that
Yeah.
they're ready for that kind of character development. But it's the sort of thing that could just send such like an epic campaign. Like you could go from level 1 to level 20 and have kind of that continuity. Yeah, I love that item. I thought it was great. That one was by Quintessential Gaming, actually.
That kind of reminds me about how in fourth edition you could go up to level 30, and there's a reason why levels 21 through 30 is called epic tier, such as some of the abilities you get.
God level. Yeah. Oh, that moon. It's so bright tonight. I just blow it up. That's how it
Yep.
felt sometimes.
I actually remember like the path I took was called the Undying Warrior, and it's like level 30 capstone ability was you can't die.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Like
It would be terrible if you called it the Undying Warrior and he could die.
it was something like the first time you die, you immediately come back to life. You die again, you come back to life on your next turn. Die again, you come back to life at the end of the next round. You die again, you come back to life at the end of the encounter.
It gets progressively longer.
Right.
At least you always come back, I guess.
Right.
Um,
That resets it the next day, but yeah.
the last I wanted to hear a little bit more about. I think Alan, you mentioned Mummer's Lantern.
hmm
Can you tell us a little bit about that, and before we close out here?
yeah, that one's from Molly Meadows, and it's a pretty simple item effect wise. But I really enjoyed the flavor text saying that it was originally made for a troupe of actors. The item, I think, it casts some sort of light or something like that, where they pointed it toward the audience, and so that the actors could then run off stage without people seeing, and then that type of thing. But then the adventurers picked it up and found other uses for it. So um, I like that little kind of a real world aspect to it, to where it started out as something that was just practical for someone, and then adventurers grabbed it and said, oh hey, we can use this to go do these things. And
Right. Like I said, I went through a lot of these items, and I think that they're all just amazing. They're well written. I can tell that you went through a lot of work to make sure that the verbiage was as close to consistent as you could get, which I know, at least in my experiences, when I'm going through a lot of content, I find even in my own material where something doesn't match the traditional WotC format, and I can tell that you guys must have put a lot of work in trying to make sure all that is set up. So kudos to you on that.
And I can imagine that there was quite a bit of challenge at times too, trying to change the wording in the verbiage to have it match your format, but still try to keep it in line with what the creator intended. So,
Right.
Definitely, yeah.
So before we do you guys have any other points you'd like to touch on this amazing product? I cannot say enough how beautiful the art is, how detailed it is. I even love the cover page with the treasure chest. I think that's fantastic. It really captures the essence of this content. Um,
Two things. So, the cover, it's funny you should mention that. That was kind of a group decision. So we tried to make sure that everyone was kind of involved in the process to be happy with it from start to finish, that, we're transparent, let everybody know what's going on and how. And the other thing is that it wasn't, we had a lot of big names on the DMs Guild that were involved in the project, but it wasn't like a presupposition. It wasn't just like you have to have so many things or you're not in the club. It was like, hey, everyone, do you want to be a part of this? And it was like an open call, and we got so many new rising stars that wanted to be a part of the project, and a lot of them got included. That was really, really valuable for me.
you
Yeah, I
know,
think there's even some people that this is their only credit at this point on the guild. They're still working on their own projects and things like that. So
Sure.
Yeah, and I honestly, I'm so glad to see you guys mention that you included some of these people who aren't as well known, because I know personally I was very happy to be part of the Monsters of the Guild, and if it wasn't for that, I probably would have never made my Unearthed Tips and Tricks book or any of the additional content that I've released since then. And it all started with the excitement I got from putting my name in that, in that project, and I didn't even do very much. I think there's only like two monsters in there, but it gave me the surge of oomph that I needed to be like, oh my god, that's so exciting! I'm ready to go do another one. So, and I hope that that's how those people who aren't as big named that got their name into this book feel, and I hope it will compel them to want to do bigger, better things. I don't want to say better. How do you do bigger? More, more of their own, and more being more involved in the community. I think that's why I think that's just such an amazing thing you guys did.
Yeah, and
So
anyone that, there's such a great resource on Facebook. It's the Dungeon Master Guild's Creator Circle. And it's just an open forum where people can share what they're working on and get feedback and meet people, like have other collaborations. Fantastic resource for anyone that wants to write on the guild.
yeah, absolutely.
That's good to know.
yeah, that's fantastic. So before we close out the main topic, are there any secret projects or anything that you can give Crit Nation a taste of that you guys are working on? Obviously, without giving away what you can't talk about, but we'd love to hear about it.
Well,
It
I'm working on fulfilling my first Kickstarter. So Professor Humbert Drumsley 5e Adventure Codex. So we did the funding in February and we're set to fulfill in September.
Nice.
It was actually working on the artifacts project was a good experience for me because it kind of prepped me for a larger scale project like this. And my writing partner, John Scott, and I were working on a follow up kind of with a different character. So that's kind of on the horizon, hopefully for later this year.
Very cool. Alan, how about you?
I've got a few things in the works, but the thing I'm most excited about right now is I'm doing a compendium for the Mournland in Eberron, kind of a Volo's Guide style book where we'll have probably well over 20 new monsters, as well as templates and tables for creating your own kind of magic warped stuff and the living spells and all of that sort of thing in there. And it's actually turned into more of a collaborative project than I had anticipated to start with too. But I'm really excited about that, and that I'm hoping to have that out here within the next month or two.
Let's backtrack. Magic warped. You have to tell me more about that. Can you talk about that?
Well,
What
I
is
don't know how
that?
familiar you are with Eberron, but the Morning is basically a country that was subjected to a magical nuke, is the easiest way to describe
Is
it.
that the spell plague thing? Or
Sort of.
okay.
I suppose it's kind of along those lines, but in Eberron there was it's the incident that ended the last war, which is this
Right.
100-year long war that's kind of before the setting, the timeline for the setting starts for the most part.
So basically, it's like a magical version for the Asian then, because in a gay Mad Max kind of setting.
Sort of, yeah, and
Yeah.
it basically this one country, which was kind of the center of a lot of magical creations and things like that, basically had a cataclysmic event happen. Nobody knows how or why it happened, but it's left this one country that's kind of in the middle of Corvair, which is the main continent. It's left it in as just a wasteland, but there are all sorts of creatures and stuff that have survived, but they've become warped and mutated because of this stuff that's going on.
We're
So
playing in the wrong setting, man.
But I was about to say, given my short but glorious experience in the Gamma World setting, this sounds pretty awesome.
Yes.
yeah,
So thank you. Now I have to go buy that Eberron Wayfinders or Eberron because I hadn't
Yeah.
bought it yet, and I was just like, we'll see. And you just totally turned me on to that. So thank you for costing me money. I appreciate it.
I still left at the
my pleasure.
I still left at the time actually when we played Gamma World. That thing is so potentially lethal that we actually had one player go through. I'm not kidding. 4 characters in one night.
I had tire armor and beat people with a mailbox. It was glorious.
My guy had dubbed the gnome stick, which is basically a garden gnome duct taped to a quarterstaff.
Alrighty. Well, I think that'll do it for our main topic today. Before we continue on, do you have somewhere to go, or would you like to finish up with the unearthed tips and tricks with us as well?
I'm happy to stick around.
All right.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. Well, before we move on to our unearthed tips and tricks segment, we have another gift to give away, compliments of Loresmith.
Each episode, we will draw another lucky subscriber's name, and they will win the best-selling adventure, The Claws of Madness, Compliments of Loresmith. Loresmith is a small indie team of creative artists who remember exploring the realms together with friends, finding incredible places, and meeting colorful characters along the way. They set out to deliver an experience that sparks those lasting impressions that pushed them to create their first standalone adventure, The Claws of Madness. This best-selling adventure is one that you don't want to miss.
Terry, who's our winner today?
Our winner is Paul.Armsford.
I wish I could stand up and river dance right now. Makes me want to do that.
I'm glad you can't.
Oh, God damn it. You're no fun. Congratulations to Paul.Armsford. If you enjoy the adventure, please leave Loresmith a review. If you guys don't know, one of the best things you can do for a content creator, aside from purchasing their product, is leaving a review. When you find a product that you really like, let the world know that you like it, so that it encourages others to support these artists and creators, please.
The mental image that came to mind when I read this guy's name was Paul Bunyan, but I had F-150s for arms.
Oh, what the fuck, dude? All right.
And now, what you've all been waiting for. Our Unearthed Tips and Tricks segment, where we bring you new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
You have no idea how excited I am that everything's working. I know it sounds stupid, but something always goes wrong. We're not done yet, though, I guess. I am really excited to talk about our character concept today, the conspiracy theorists. This has been on the docket for a long time. For some reason, I haven't got around to it. This character can easily be persuaded to believe any conspiracy, no matter how outlandish. This character spends a lot of time gossiping and trying to gather any evidence, no matter how small, to support their belief.
Who wants to know?
A few examples. Regional governments are all controlled by mind flayer collectives. If any ruler ever escapes their control, they are replaced by a doppelganger imposter. Ian, do you have another one?
Orcs were originally made when humans and dwarves tried to have children.
Oh.
That does not work at all, though, in the Dark Sun setting.
The gods are not actually in conflict with each other. They fake being in conflict to keep mortals busy and prevent the mortals from eventually overthrowing them. And then the last one we have written down here is, rage is actually a form of demonic possession, and all barbarians are slowly becoming more corrupted and turning evil. All right. So as our guest, what do you guys think about this? Anything come to mind? Anything of interest?
For the character that sounds like every character that's played in my games ever. They'll believe anything.
Well, we live in a semi-magical world. It does not sound too weird because it could happen.
That's true. Um,
Or, actually, this is actually quite light compared to some of the stuff I heard playing Shadowrun. Cyberpunk fantasy.
yeah.
So are you saying that the mind flare thing isn't true?
I never said that.
I cannot confirm nor deny that.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I personally like this concept because it gives me a roleplay outlet for my bard that's not just about humping everything. I think it would be really interesting to have a bard, instead of going in and singing and dancing or whatever, they go in and they try to spread all the conspiracies that they know, and they constantly try to leverage the little bit of evidence that they have. I think that would be so much fun and so distracting. Oh, man.
Yeah, I love it. I think that would be fantastic. With the right group and the right setting, this would be hilarious.
I'm definitely thinking about the question from the Justice League animated series.
What's the question?
He's a superhero. His name's The Question. He's a detective. He's also a conspiracy theorist.
His name is the question.
Yep.
This is why DC is behind Marvel, people. Okay. As DMs, how, if a player brought this concept to you, what would you do to encourage it and help it blossom?
I would have so many rumors in every bar that they go into. I would feed that so hard. It would be amazing.
I can imagine just torment this player. That another player might feed them hallucinogens.
That doesn't help.
No.
And that makes it work. I mean, imagine how much worse this is, because there's illusionary magic, there's mind manipulation magic. You could be a conspiracy theorist who just constantly has been being manipulated by somebody else. Oh, that would be awesome. That would be
You'd
a
have
great.
to, as a DM, you'd have to give them a tinfoil hat as a magic item
Yeah, absolutely.
I love
that
it.
keeps their other people's thoughts out of their head, things like that. Yeah.
Oh man! And turns out the tinfoil hat is given to him by like the secret villain, and allows him to literally track everything. But he believes it's
Sure.
it
Yeah,
prevents
exactly.
anybody from messing with him.
I can only imagine the session where the conspiracy turns out to be real and the character spends the whole time going, I told all of you, running through the streets.
I mean,
Yeah, it just writes itself,
if
really.
you've got a
It
million
does.
conspiracies, one's got to be true, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day, right?
It's true. I think that'll do it for our character concept today, the conspiracy theorist. Our monster variant of the day is the war chanter. That sounds familiar.
Ooga chaka.
It's almost like I built a class and was like, man, that'd make an awesome monster. Let's do it. So the war chanter origin, you're going to use the stat block of the Orog, but you're going to give it 2 new features. Commanding chant. The war chanter can forego one of its attacks and shout in a rhythmic chant to inspire one of its companions to strike.
Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka.
When the war chanter does so, it can choose a friendly creature who can see or hear it. That creature can immediately use its reaction to make one weapon attack.
I can't stop that feeling.
Are you done?
Yes,
Okay.
maybe.
And then, of course, it also has the battlefield chant. The war chanter chooses up to 3 creatures it can see within 30 feet of it. Until the end of its next turn, each target can add a d4 to its attack and saving throw. Basically, bless, I guess.
Go and conquer Dennis.
Without giving it spellcasting. So, this is meant to be. If you don't know, the Orog actually has multi-attack, but you forgo one of its attacks to pass that to another creature. And I think that works really well if you're running like a scout or something that has like a sneak attack or something along those lines. What do you guys think about this monster, this variant?
I really like the battlefield chant. I think that gives a dynamic element to, sometimes orc fights can be a little bland at times, and having one monster that buffs the other monsters like that, I think would surprise a lot of players.
especially since it applies it to their saving throws, making them a little more resistant to spells as well.
Yeah, we did actually on our
Definitely.
show covered a supplement that does help with stuff like this, especially with orcs. They gave quite a few options.
Right, right. Was that the monster talents you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like,
it kind of sounds like the what is it, the Hobgoblin Warlord or Chieftain, I think. I don't remember that on steroids that they can uh, direct, other hobgoblins around and say, hey, go attack here, go attack there, and get extra attacks and stuff like that.
Yeah, this was definitely meant to be kind of a way to incorporate some sort of a leader role to one of the enemies the players are fighting, because you always get the, okay, if you're fighting the orcs, you got, three little orcs and one big orc, but really they all just attack in most cases.
Yeah.
This one makes it more of a threat, because if you don't take it out first, there's no telling how many extra attacks the party is going to have to deal with.
yep.
Right.
Because of that extra D4. A D4 to your roll is nothing to laugh at, and because of that, it makes it a big threat, and the party has to deal with it, which I think is cool, though, because they have to be able to speak. A silence would actually be a good technique to weaken this character a little bit. I don't think my players are smart enough to do stuff like that, except for maybe Ian. But
Go
Now
imitate.
that you told him, right?
true.
Go imitate Cyberman Garfunkel.
But I really like monsters like this that can really fill that minor boss or even big boss void, and gives a little bit that commanding presence. By giving the commander chant, he can actually stay off at a distance, do the battlefield chant, and actually cause his allies to attack while he's safe in some sort of reinforcement. And I really like stuff like that.
Although I still stand by the fact that no orc shall be as awesome as Dennis.
Oh, fuck Dennis.
Well, actually, it's all the way around.
Any other points on this? Anything you would do to make it more interesting, or?
I think it's really interesting as is because, like you're saying, most people just picture orcs as just brutes that just hit you, and this adds more variety to that.
Yeah. Well, technically, he's now just telling other people to hit you. So
Stop
instead of
hitting
doing
yourself. Stop hitting
himself.
yourself.
I think that'll do it for our monster variant. Our encounter of the podcast is called Visions of the Past. Now, I mentioned I was reading Way of the Kings, and there's a gentleman that experiences these visions. And the same thing. Have you guys seen iRobot by chance?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In iRobot, this hollow vid is left over as a puzzle. And it's not until the player, the main character, asks the right question does he get a right answer. And I think I've always wanted to do the vision things, especially for people who are tied really close either to their deity or if they're a warlock and their patron, where these little slight visions can trickle through to the point where it's almost like it's driving the person insane. Maybe even forcing them to roll on the madness table, and feeding them a little bit about what could happen, not necessarily what will happen. But it comes down to, here's what I think is here's a vision that you see. I think in the iRobot example, you have him saying you have to ask the right question and try to understand what it is they're seeing. I would love to see a good encounter based around almost like Clue. And the visions get progressively stronger and start to alter. Maybe this could fit really good with the conspiracy theorists, I guess, where nobody believes him. But I would like to see that kind of trickle down of these little either past events that lead to a reoccurring event. In, like, for one of the books I'm reading, they're getting trickles of this entire nightmare that happened hundreds and thousands of years ago, and it's starting to happen again, but nobody believes this person. Like, no matter what he says, they just think he's going crazy, and I think that would be a really cool thing to subtly dot through a player, though I do think if you do this, talk to the player about it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I could see myself using this idea as kind of like a shared group experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd run probably like a whole session in, like, dreamscape is maybe not the right word,
Mm-hmm.
but let the players know that there's kind of different rules involved, and then they can be a little looser in what they would normally do, so they have a little more freedom. And then being able to tie it back to earlier plot points would be spectacular, I think.
What about you, Alan?
I kind of I'm just thinking about this. Years ago, I kind of ran a campaign where the players picked up early on. They picked up an item that had an ancient wizard basically was kind of trapped inside that was able to give them information occasionally about kind of past events and how it related to what was going on in the present. And eventually they were able to release his soul out of this thing and bring him back as a physical being. And toward the end of the campaign, he was kind of an NPC that went along with the party and helped them out for this, building up to this big cataclysmic epic event at the end. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, kind of like in the movie Dragon Slayer.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one you keep telling me I need to watch but haven't?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Someday.
it's on the list.
It's on the list. Kind of touching on what Terry said. What I think would be really cool is this would be a great. Normally, when we hear about backstory and lore, it's something that it's this far off thing that happened, and the players aren't directly attached to it. If you had a moment, especially either as a whole group or maybe you have a group where only half the group shows up, and you could go back to one of those points where you think is super important and give your characters different character sheets and say, here, you're now in this war that we've been talking about that's in this far off distance that really you kind of know what's going on, but now you get to live it. And it could be a great drop in for even a one shot when people don't show up, or if you decide to make it super important to the story, maybe as Terry said, having everyone run this past event and seeing as it unfolds. And I think that would be probably that'd probably be a little more railroady than normal because the events already have to unfold a certain way. But I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, along those lines, I played in a campaign where we started off like that. So we had a dungeon that we were in, and we knew in advance that the session would end when one of the characters died. So we played through it and tried to extend it. And then all the things that we did in the dungeon informed the kind of start of the campaign. So it was like a pre-campaign. And it was really cool because sometimes we'd see things and be like, that was from the pre-campaign.
And there's a lot that comes with that, especially if the characters are involved in it. I know that we've talked about cutscenes what's the word for? Damn it, I can't think of what it's called.
Illusion?
No, I can't. I know what an illusion is. It's some other word that I forget all the time.
Illusion, not illusion.
Whatever. An illusion. God damn it, dude, shut up. So what I think this is really cool, and I think what I have talked about in like past episodes is that this is a really good way to show the players the villains too. Like, if you want them to see this past event, make them the guards and have to report out negative news to the villain and watch him decapitate the players or dangle them over the side of a building and just drop them, and make the players really develop a close connection with the villain before they ever meet the villain. I think that would be a very interesting way to introduce a villain that everyone knows is bad, but the players only hear it from other people. And then you let them play out that scenario where they got to deliver that crappy news and, oh, I'm sorry, you're being tortured. But those are just my thoughts. Anything else on this?
Nope.
All right, that'll do it for our encounter of the podcast, Visions of the Past. Our magic item comes... I need to write that in there. It doesn't actually say that.
Yeah.
Make sure I don't forget. It's actually plural, isn't it? Our magic item today comes from Artifacts of the Guild. And I told you I read a lot. I didn't read all of them, but I read a lot out of this, and I found one I loved.
It's not familiar, actually.
It's very familiar. It's called the Noisy Cricket, and this is certainly a nod to Men in Black.
Definitely.
With the Noisy Cricket, which is like a little tiny gun, right? So this is a very rare wand that requires attunement. This tiny wand is the size of a toothpick, but a darker in color. The wand has several charges and recharges at dawn. When activated, you fire a 25-foot cone, but you have to make a save or the damn thing recoil sends you flying backwards. And I just think that's hilarious because, first of all, I love Men in Black, and I love an item like this that's got some oomph to it, so much so that it inherently comes with some risk to the player, and just the comedic value that comes with holding out a wand with two fingers and pointing it at a group of enemies, and then they're like, "What the hell is that? You gonna beat me up with a stick?" Yeah,
Boom.
you know. I love this item. What do you guys think?
I can't remember who wrote this one, Alan. Do you recall?
I do actually. That's mine. I did.
Oh.
I have an adventure on the guild. It's an homage and a kind of a parody of Men in Black called Elves in Pink, and
Um, I'm getting
it's
that.
it's kind of a higher level adventure. I think 10. What did I do? I don't know. Early teens adventure. I think 11 through 14, and yeah, that's one of the items that's in there.
Oh my god, the cover to this is awesome.
This is why Alan was in charge of art.
Oh my god. This looks hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah, so kudos to you. I absolutely fell in love with it. I'll be honest, I did not know you were the one that made it when I had you come on the show. That's pure coincidence. But kudos to you. I love this. Now I want to pick up this product to see what other goofball items you have that are like that. So, I
Well, you
think
can
this
see
is
those glasses that they're wearing. Those are also in artifacts. So
ooh. Which item?
it's the spectacles of mind shuddering.
So do you know these people, or is it just like a stock art and you edited it?
It's a combination of a bunch of stock art.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I kind of specialize in kit bashing. I take a lot of different pieces from here, there, and everywhere, and put them together. So
I love the pink cloak.
That's totally how I made my posters for Game Club back in college.
Just a bunch of clip art put together. Or stock art.
I would. I was taking a lot of Photoshop classes throughout college, but I can't draw to save my life. So I would often buy some stock art online, make it like a solid color, and start shaving away at it to make some changes. So
I hear that.
Yep.
Well, that'll do it for our awesome magic item from Artifacts of the Guild by Alan, the Noisy Crickets. That's so awesome.
Yep.
Our Dungeon Master tip comes from Brian N. Thieves can't symbols. I used real-world hobo symbols as a basis for my campaign's Thieves Can't. My rogue player enjoys it very much, and she still gets to decipher them occasionally. This can really bring the Thieves Can't into play far more than it normally does, as it is a unique language that only the rogue can use. I've used it in many things, but the best way is for warnings, secret meeting areas, and looking for assassin work. What do you guys think about this?
it sounds really cool. I like that because most of the time on those types of things, you kind of just it's all hand wavy. You just say, "Oh well, we just talk in thieves can't," and that's the end of it. But you put a put some actual stuff to it. That's really great.
Yeah, especially because we do that with a lot with like I don't know about you, but I like draw out or print out symbols for you see the symbol. Now with Thieves
Mhm.
Can't, I can do that. I can say you see this symbol, and if you use the same one enough, you won't even have to tell them what it is. You just show them the symbol, and they'll know. Oh, that means I'm looking for assassin work. I need somebody, or I lost my dagger or my toolkit or something. I think that that's a really cool way to do it, and it's already a language that's written that you're not going to accidentally stumble into a player who probably already knows what it is, which is fantastic.
I think my favorite Thieves Camp moment was when I was playing an AL game, and the rogue read in Thieves Camp at the fort. Beware of, I forget what the character's name was, but it was an NPC who was basically the head of security at the fort. He was like, "Guys, the Thieves Camp says beware of this person." I'm like, is it really all that shocking for somebody who knows Thieves Camp to say beware of chief of security? Just saying.
Chief of security. I think that this is really cool. Terry, do you have any comments?
I love it. It would make a great addition to any dungeon. Just to have the rogue stumble upon a symbol like outside of a door,
Mm-hmm.
and because the players they would learn over time, right? They might not piece it together right at the start, And then it just adds so much depth to the world. It's one extra thing. You can keep your players coming back for more.
I totally could see like a blood smeared hobo symbol that basically says, "Don't look up." And it's written in blood. They're like, guys, we oh, what the hell? And then something drops from the ceiling like an ooze or something. I love stuff like that because it's a good way to add not only flavor, but little tiny pieces of information that would only be relevant to like the underground crew. Like, here is a drop off zone for, and whether you do it in your games or not, drugs, or here's a drop off zone for slaves, or a pickup zone for slaves. And it's something that should be part of the world, because in most worlds, at least to my understanding, slaves exist, and there's a criminal underground. So the player could get used to these sort of things and then start using them as driving story. We always say, oh, what do you want to do? I want to go look for information. Well, if I'm constantly running into thieves can't stuff, I want to go look for the information drop off point. Where's that? Have I seen that symbol in the area? And I can see them wanting to get more involved with it, because now it's given a life of its own, instead of just some text in a book that once, like Alan said, just kind of usually is hand wavy. So
What's it like being a
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It just made me think of a Game of Thrones line. So it was like being a pirate. I was not a pirate. I was a smuggler. What's the difference? The difference is if you're a famous smuggler, you're not doing it right.
And along those lines too, tying it in earlier to events that are happening without player involvement, this can be a way to show that there's smugglers and slavers, and there are things going on in the background that they're not directly involved in.
Sorry.
You better be.
Yes, I agree. And once again, that's another thing that brings the world to life around the players. And it gives the player a tool to reach out in Thieves' Cant, and a constant reminder. If you're setting out these little things, I mean, like I use a whiteboard. I don't know if you guys use a whiteboard. Most powerful tool in the world. If I just every time I put a symbol up and the player comes in that knows Thieves' Cant, what's that? Just okay, we'll get to that. Just now you've got a reminder. Because that's something I see that happens a lot with rogues is Thieves' Cant, and the Druid one?
Druidic.
Druidic. Oh, now I feel like an idiot. Both of those are things that just don't get enough attention, and I could see you using this for either one of those, and if you wanted to really engage that aspect. So,
although I feel like hobos symbols might be a little bit more appropriate for Druidic.
Maybe they are. They do generally hang out by themselves, don't they?
Yep.
All right. Any other points on this? Also, if you Google hobo symbols, you can get an entire chart of them. So
it's true.
I'd love to include it in my game tomorrow. That's such a great idea.
Let us know how it goes.
I'll try, yeah.
All right. That'll do it for our Dungeon Master tip. Thieves' Cant symbols from Brian N. Now, for our player tip of the podcast, we're going to say don't be a dick, and then you'll say don't be a dick, because we can't, because of the delay, you can't get it perfectly lined up, so I'll just fix it in post. So our player tip of the podcast is don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Terry?
Don't be a dick.
Oh, I thought he was going to say I don't swear.
Oh. Well, that
I think I overshadowed him.
That's okay.
Oh, that's my bad.
He's like, there's a kid behind me, a-hole. Our player tip today is Might and Magic, Grapple, and Bonfire. Now, we just covered Wombo's combos last week, and so after that I started thinking about all the different things that we could talk about in regards to that I think are just powerful techniques that we can add as a group. Often people consider grapple is considered a weaker in 5e than it was in all the previous editions, mostly because it doesn't come with its own rule book. It all fits in like 2 paragraphs now.
But it's way more simple than what it used to be.
Now, you might just think, well, just holding an enemy is not nearly as deadly as a sword, so it often gets overshadowed in most situations, unless you're me. I love grapple. It's my jams. But
people hated grapple in 3.5. I'm going to grapple. Okay, let's break out the chart.
Next half hour later, are you sure that's right? Anyway, if you don't know, grapple, all it really does is stops a creature from moving. Now, that may not seem like a big deal, but with a wizard with bonfire cantrip, you create like a 5-foot square of burning fire, and if the enemy can't get out of it, guess what happens? They continually burn. making this a great combination for like a fighter or a barbarian that has a high strength that can hold the enemy in place as the wizard or sorcerer continues to nuke them every single round.
Or Wallfire, or Moonbeam, or any other long list of area effect spells.
I was getting to that. And I mean, it's not specifically just bonfire,
Of course.
sphere of fire, and a bunch of other different features. But what makes bonfire so interesting is whenever I guess it's pretty true for all of them. When an enemy enters the field, they take damage. So for the first time of that round, so a barbarian literally can increase the damage of this by just dragging them out and then sticking them back in.
Yep.
On their turn, which I think is fantastic. It also frees the wizard or sorcerer or whatever up to cast another either another cantrip like Firebolt, significantly increasing the damage they do per round, which is fantastic. What do you guys think about this? That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. I was actually thinking, I don't know if my players would be smart enough to try this kind of tactic. They have a tendency to just run at stuff.
Yes.
So this is very interesting. I just, I think it's a problem that I would never have to overcome just because my group is just maybe not as clever. And group, if you're listening, you know it's true.
I had my group a few sessions ago. They had some undead running towards them, and the sorcerer cast Sickening Radiance around all the undead, which basically it has a slowing kind of grappling component almost to it as well. And then the other characters cast I'm trying to remember what it was now. It was another sort of sustained AoE, but basically they ended up corralling a bunch of these undead, in this one spot and just continually nuking them, and they had to keep making a save trying to get out of it, and they it never did. They just sat there and nuked them and from a distance and cackled about it the entire time. So I thought they were very clever. It's a lot along those same lines for sure. Yeah.
And this is great too because to grapple requires only a free hand. So you really could grapple two enemies and drag them as the barbarian, drag them through this bonfire every turn to increase the amount of damage it does. Because now you can have a single space affect two people, which makes it doubly powerful. Because basically now your non-moving area of damage is now constantly hitting targets, and if the whole group did, you can try to create like an assembly line and just dragging the enemies through this to make this little tiny cantrip, which requires no spell slots, very effective. Even if you think about just a boss, if the player casts this cantrip at the beginning of the fight and the barbarian can hold the boss there for the entirety of the battle without them breaking it, if you don't know, when a barbarian rages, they have advantage on those checks. So it is very difficult to break. You can significantly get a lot of oomph out of this attack. And it's a cantrip. So
Okay, when you said boss, it made me think of our Halloween game.
which one was that? You got to be more specific. We've had a lot of Halloween games.
The second doll one.
Oh, yeah, dude. So we did the Haunt too, and they were fighting this stupid
Chucky doll.
yeah, the Chucky doll thing, and it was crawling up his arm at one time. And so they're fighting a slime too. So this batch was like, "Oh, I can't get off me. I'm gonna jump in the slime." Started fucking melting my doll. I was so pissed. Bastard.
Her strength score was terrible. She couldn't get out.
Yeah. So, do you guys have any other comments on this particular combination or any other combinations that are similar?
No, I don't. This
Don't think so.
This is a good one.
Awesome. Well, that'll do it for our player tip of the podcast.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Wow, that's way worse when we gotta line it up with like 3 different people. Anyways, Might and Magic, Grapple, and Bonfire. This is a great combination, and it can do so much damage throughout a big boss battle. So definitely consider giving it a shot. And don't out count that if your barbarian has a weapon, he can grapple and stab stuff still. So make sure you do that.
Oh yeah.
Well, that'll do it for our show today. Man, I've really enjoyed having you guys on today. You guys are absolutely awesome. Before we close out, though, we have one more gift to give away. Compliments of Jeff Stevens.
A small village, empty of villagers except for one boy, found
sitting and weeping next to a jester's pageant wagon. The boy explains that the villagers, including his family, followed a jester into the wagon and never came out. What madness could the adventurers face? Can they save the villagers? Or will they go mad trying? Can you survive the madhouse of Tasha's kiss?
So, Terry, who is our winner today?
Our winner is Zach Cutter.
Dang, and then we can't screw up.
Yeah, what do you think of that versus the other one?
It isn't more on point, so.
You think so?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make that change permanent. Congratulations to Zach Cutter. If you enjoy the adventure, please leave Jeff Stevens a review. Make sure to check out all his other products. He's does amazing work. I love Jeff. He's awesome.
He does good stuff.
Can I also say that I love this adventure because it includes the madness table and alters people's backstories, which I think is amazing. All right. So please join us. Actually, I think before we do that, before we finish our closing, would each of you like to give yourselves a plug where people can find you, some product you can direct them to?
So you can follow me, Terry_Herc on Twitter and Terry Herc Tomes on Facebook.
Is that what you're under on Dmsguild as well?
Yeah, I publish under Terry Herc. You can find adventures, magic items, anything under the sun. You can find it there.
All right, then.
Alan?
Yeah, I'm Alan Tucker on Twitter. I am Tucker Author, and you can find me there. I've got alantucker.net is my website where you can find links to my Dmsguild stuff as well as novels I've written in the past, fantasy and science fiction, and all kinds of fun stuff.
You've written novels. That is so hot.
Thank you.
The Devil You Know. And there's a picture of an alien on the front. That is awesome. Aliens,
Yep, that one's a science fantasy, kind of a mishmash.
Nice.
You sure it's not fact? It should be fact. Aliens exist. I know. I've seen one. It was on August.
Are you playing the conspiracy character?
Oh, I'm not playing. Well, it has been an absolute joy having you guys on. Please join us on our next episode where we hear feedback from you guys, from you, our heroes. We will be discussing D&D races. Can you believe it? We have not covered the races at all.
Which is kind of surprising, actually.
123 episodes, and we have not covered races. So, for those of you that don't know, as of this recording, our next recording will be our live show, which also will be a episode 0. We're going to remake a new episode as a lower level episode so that people can see all the changes in the formats and all the stuff that has changed over the last 2 years, which is a lot. It's not just my sexy professional voice either. But our entire setup, our entire format has changed quite a bit, and I'm excited to share that. So we're going to go back to the bases and cover something we somehow missed. This is what happens when I do all the notes by myself. I miss shit.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. If you have any feedback, unearthed tips and tricks, or topics you would like us to discuss, you can send them to us at critacademy@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at critacademy. We hope you've enjoyed your experience here. If you have, or if you did, you can help others find our show by leaving a hopefully 5-star review on iTunes. Or just send us a message telling us how much you enjoyed the show. I love those emails. Please keep sending them. I feel so bubbly on inside when I get to read those.
And also, definitely be sure to give us a like and a share.
If you would like to support our show, we have a Patreon. We just recently restructured it going into May. If you sign up at the $10 tier, you get a free complimentary copy of our Honor Tips and Tricks book, as well as the most recent published release. which will be, as of this recording, is the Brawler, but next week will be our College of the Bard, the War Chanter, and lots of other goodies in their Discord channel, some cool stuff like that. Brandon does commissions. Head on over to our Facebook and check out his prices and his art. Definitely commission him to do some really cool art for you. Where can they, how can they enter to win prizes?
Oh, they have many options. The big one, though, is to make sure to subscribe to our show by going to createacademy.com. And wow, I am tripping on my tongue
This
right
is
now.
what happens when I don't do it and I give it to somebody else. Throw your ass off.
Yeah. Be sure to subscribe to our show at createacademy.com so we can help you, our listeners, on your future adventures, as well as a chance to win cool prizes every week. And you also find links to our very long list of fellowship members as well.
Yeah, definitely. Also, follow us on Twitch now. Our show will be going live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Twitch, so definitely follow us there. There's a link on our website to also click our Dmsguild stuff. We get affiliate links. We have affiliate link too, which is fantastic.
And we are adding more stuff to the Dmsguild.
Yeah, there's just so much. As for the fellowship members, check out D&D Character Lab. Those guys every week make very in-depth characters and argue their validity in-game like a couple of bards duking it out. It's pretty fantastic. Also check out Interparty Conflict, where those bad boys, Gabe and Jeff, answer your questions every single week.
We actually get started on our show last Tuesday.
We did. It was really exciting. Can't wait for that to go out.
It was fun.
So keep an eye out for that. So once again, you guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. You guys have been awesome. We hope you've had fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. Really appreciate the opportunity.
I know I was glad to listen to you guys' 2 cents on your own projects, so.
Yeah, and it's all we always have. I always learn a lot when I invite content creators from the guild on here, because there's so much work that goes involved that's involved with this stuff, and it really needs to be out there how much work goes on. I saw somebody, and I hope it's not the 2 guests we have, complaining that there wasn't hyperlinks in every PDF, and I was like, I don't even know how to do that, and if I did, I bet it'd be a lot more work than I already do. So.
And I don't think a lot of people appreciate how much work goes into these kind of products too.
Right.
So.
But you guys did awesome work. You should be very proud of the work you've accomplished, and I hope that everyone will go and pick up your artifacts of the guild using our affiliate link on our website. Yeah.
Definitely.
So we're all gonna sign off. We'll go first, and then we'll have you guys sign off. Alan, if you want to say the thanks for listening, that would be fantastic. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Ian.
I'm Terry.
Thanks for listening.
You got to say
All right.
you're here first. I'm your guest.
Take 2.
I'm your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Ian.
I'm Terry Herc.
And I'm Alan Tucker. Thanks for listening.
Keep your blades sharp and spells prepared, heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love this. Let's all wave to the camera if you have one. Thank you guys for coming and joining us, all the couple of patrons that joined us. You guys are awesome.
Happy to have you guys here.
And as soon as I find the link, it won't let me do it. I can't end the show. There we go. Bye.
Bye now.